I would like to call our regular Board of Education meeting to order. This evening we have a group of 3rd and 4th grade students from Will L. Lee who are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We have with us Haley Crivy, Logan Russo, Paige Harvey, you guys can come on out, Haley Klein, Savannah Crivy, Kayla Guinea, and Chloe Peel. So if we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and they're going to lead us. Whenever you're ready, guys.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, I will do roll call. Tracy.
Here.
Dan.
Here.
Andy.
Here.
Bridget.
Here.
Jeff.
Here.
I am here. Rob is absent without notice. Next, approve the agenda. Motion would be in order to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Support.
It has been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. The first item we have this evening is our True Blue Moment. Every year at our April meeting, the board has the distinct pleasure of honoring the members of the senior class who are the top 10. It is a proud moment for us, as we know that it is a proud moment for the students and their families. And this year's group of students, which we would like to point out are 9 girls and 1 boy. And yes, yay Ryan. And they are a group of students that, as I was looking over, every year we get information about them that Mrs. Michon gives to me to look over prior to the meeting. And all of these students this year have one thing in common: their service. All of these students are involved in one way or the other, whether it is tutoring, Habitat for Humanity, doing things with the Salvation Army, the Lions Club, Sandy's Kids, just so much time involved that they give to their church, to our community, and it really says a lot for the character of these students, that how much that they give back, and that they give back and yet they have such a high academic standard and goals. You know, we have students, biomolecular science for a career. What was the other one? Pediatric physical therapist. Oh, great high goals, and it's just such a tribute that we have these kind of students in our school system. And every year we like to have, we get the students come up here and they get acknowledged. Mrs. Michon does a tremendous job talking about them and letting you know about the students, what they've done, who they are, what their goals are in life. But I think a thing that we need to do as well is that we need to ask our parents of these top 10 students for you guys to please stand up for just a minute. So if you guys would stand up. Please, please, please. And we just want to, no, I didn't say sit down. You have to stay standing, because we want everyone to get a good look at you, because we want to thank you. Thank you for giving us your students these years, for giving us the chance to prepare them for their future. Thank you for the hard work that you've given your child, because all of these accomplishments, whether they be academic, extracurricular, or what they've given back to the community, that's what you've given them as their foundation. So thank you. We wish your students well, and we wish you well in watching them grow to become the great human beings that you want them to be. So thank you and good luck to them and to your families. And students, Mrs. Michon's going to have you come up. She's going to speak about each one of you. We're going to ask you to please stand in front, stay up here, unfortunately, the whole entire time that she speaks about everyone. And then at the end, we have certificates for you on behalf of the Board of Education. Mrs. Michon?
Good evening. She took my thunder.
No, I didn't.
I have one part in the slide where I introduced the parents. So if you'd like to stand again when your name gets called, please, because we were going to acknowledge them. So we're great minds think alike.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. As Mrs. Telto said, once your name is called, please step up to the front and face the audience. And I will go through things as we go. Addison, I'm sorry, because you come on up. Addison Andoff. She has a GPA of a 3.846. She plans on attending St. Norbert's College in the field of in the medical field. And her parents, if they please stand, are Jim and Diane Andoff of Richmond Township. Next is Ryan Boyd. He has a GPA of a 3.959. He is undecided on his college, but he plans to go into pharmacy, and his parents are Gary and Kelly Boyd of Columbus Township, if they could please stand. And it's also Ryan's birthday today.
Happy birthday, Ryan. Yay!
Anna Frazier. Anna has a GPA of a 4.056. She plans on attending University of Michigan in the biomolecular science. Her mom and dad are Larry and Elaine Frazier of Richmond. Our next student is Colleen Gaffney. Colleen has a 4.142 GPA. She plans on attending the University of Michigan College of Literature, Science, and the Arts. She is undecided right now, and her parents are David and Barb Gaffney of Lenox Township. Our next student is Olivia Kessler. Olivia has a 3.987 GPA. She plans on attending Northern Michigan University in English with an emphasis on creative writing, and her parents are Valerie Kessler of Columbus Township and Steve Kessler of Richmond Township. Our next student is Jennifer Merriman. Jennifer has a 4.11 GPA. She plans on attending Kettering University in mechanical engineering, specializing in vehicle safety. Her parents are Craig and Victoria Merriman of Richmond Township. Our next student is Caitlin Niebauer. Caitlin has a 3.915 GPA. She will be attending the University of Detroit Mercy in pre-med, and her parents are Kevin and Jennifer Niebauer of Casco Township. And our next student is Samantha Schaefer. Samantha has a 4.051 GPA. She will be attending Central Michigan University in speech language pathology, and her parents are Jerry and Laura Schaefer of Richmond. And our next student is Noelle Scheuer. Noelle has a 3.893 GPA. She will be attending Adrian College, and she is going into exercise science to become a pediatric physical therapist. And her parents are Chuck and Kim Scheuer of Pasco Township. Our next student is Natasha Woodruff. Natasha has a 3.946 GPA. She will be attending Northern Michigan University in speech, language, and hearing science. And her parents are Marlon and Janae Woodruff of Richmond. And those are our top 10 students. We wish them luck and to their families, and we will miss you guys.
Mechanical engineering, field engineering. Great. Oh, you're another winner. Oh, yeah, go by that. Congratulations.
Enjoy the weather.
All right. Same for you.
You're in the military.
Happy birthday.
I would say no. Just a brown bag left in there.
Again, one more
Small.
hand for our
Okay, now we know that our board meetings are very exciting, but we could take a minute if those of you who don't want to stay for the rest of it, you are welcome to head home. Thank you for coming.
We'll see you all at graduation.
Yeah, see everyone at graduation, exactly. Okay.
It'll be a little cooler in here now.
You think?
Okay, next is our public comments. If there's anyone who would like to address the audience, address the board. We just ask that you come up to the podium, give us your name, and if there is anything that you need a question answered, Terry, are there cards? You can leave your name and telephone number with us, and we give you 3 minutes to speak. Yes, hi, okay.
Good evening, my name is Charlie Capozzo. I'm here representing Capozzo and Sons Excavating. Our company was one of the companies that put a bid in on the upcoming school project that was up for bid on Tuesday. I just had a few concerns to express to the board regarding the project, regarding our bid item on the contract, or on the project. I think you guys all have scope of the work they were provided. The first one, bid category number 19, earthwork and site utilities, which is the bid category my company bid on. And the second one is bid category number 20, which is asphalt and paving, which we did not participate in that particular bid item. But our basic concerns are, when we sat down for the post-bid conference, our bid was the lowest bid. And rightfully so, there was some concern by the construction manager that there was quite a large gap between our bid and the second bidder. And basically, as we were going through the scope of work, it was basically brought up that everything was lining up until we got to the track work, which under the track work, the major point of contention was the aggregate base and the geogrid underneath the aggregate base, which kind of go hand in hand as you roll out the geogrid, the egg base goes on top of it. So anyways, under bid category number 20, which you guys should have, I highlighted where it falls under that bid category for the aggregate base course, which is listed here underneath the scope of work in the under the asphalt pavers responsibility. We did not include that item in our bid. As you can see, it's not listed under the bullet points under the earthwork and site utilities. So basically, what came out of the meeting was we were asked to go back to the office and come up with what our price would be for the 21A sub base for our aggregate base as well as the geogrid. And as we were typing the email to send back in to the construction manager, he had called and said they awarded the bid to the next bidder in line, whose bid would have been approximately $130,000 more than ours. So I guess that's the long and short of it. I guess I would also like to mention that the Friday before the bid, that I did place a voicemail to the construction manager, just stating that I would like to bid the egg base on the project. You know, that it was listed under bid category 20. We were bidding bid category 19. And, you know, if there's any way that we could bid the egg base course, you know, we would like to do that. I know everybody's busy, and you know, he didn't have time to give me a call back, and I do realize that the preferred method of contact was through email 5 days before the bid, but it was the Friday before Easter on a holiday weekend, and we felt like the quickest way to get a response on it was to just drop a phone call. So that's basically where we're coming from on the situation. I don't want to come across as being sour grapes or anything like that, you know. I feel like, you know, fair is fair, and I feel like for the taxpayers as well, that it's costing them an extra $130,000 with the way it was settled out there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Roberta Schmidt. I'm in Lennox Township. And this is concerning an incident that happened with the buses on the half day of school. My son is autistic, and he was left off without me being home. The bus driver, after I spoke with the bus driver, he told me that the only thing, that he was a substitute also. And the only information he had about my son, even though he was aware he was autistic, was that he was his name and his grade. That all the information was provided to the substitute bus driver. I did not get home from work until 2 o'clock. My son was dropped off at 12:30. My autistic son was walking 29 Mile Road for an hour and a half. I was not contacted. I just happened to come home from work early and find him there. My son does not communicate very well. He does not know his phone number. He does not know his address. He does not know how to use a phone. He is 12 years, 13 years old. He just turned 13. Thank God he had a birthday again. He has got the mentality of about a 5 or 6 year old. And I was told that kindergarten and first graders must have a visual contact with someone at the house. Well, the bus driver does not know my son. He just knows he's autistic. And if you know if you've seen one autistic kid, you've seen one autistic kid. He said that another autistic child has got a key to a house. Well, that's great. That's not my kid. The bus drivers are the last line of defense to keep our kids safe. And my son was in the AI program, and he was mainstreamed into Richmond. I do not feel that there are supports in place and that people are educated with autism to know that what is entailed in autism. And there's not supports in place. I mean, why would you just leave a kid to fend for himself who can't talk? He cannot communicate. And he was just left there. I mean, I could have been planning a funeral. I could not have known where he went. Autistic children wander. He could have been face down in a pond. There was just a kid who was killed because the bus driver just let this kid out because he figured he's a big kid. 16 years old, was hit by a car. Because the bus driver figured he's a big kid, he can handle it. You can't. These kids need our help. They need to be watched. They need our help. You cannot just assume they're in 6th grade and they're going to be fine, because I'm darn lucky that I still have my son. I think that there's, and I spoke with the bus garage, there needs to be something put in place with the buses, the way that the MISD had. In the buses, there needs to be, I filled out an emergency card that says all this. It needs to have a picture of the students, because the students, some autistic kids are nonverbal. So if you go up to them and say, what's your name? If they can't talk, they can't tell you their name. They can't tell you their phone number. They can't tell you any information. This stuff needs to be on the buses to protect our children. I mean, I live on 29 Mile Road, and the garbage trucks and people fly down this road. He's, like I said, he's lucky he's alive. But there needs to be conditions of a drop-off. And it's, the information is passed from one driver to another. If there's a substitute, he doesn't know. He doesn't know that the main bus driver knows, what, if there's a car in the garage, I know that mom and dad are home. Substitute doesn't know that. All he knew was that Aaron is a 6th grader. And that's all they knew about my son. That's it. There needs to be more support for these children that have been mainstreamed into public schools. And the bus drivers, like I said, they're the last line of defense to keep these kids safe. And if they're not doing it, if this is not in place, this is not acceptable. I don't want to see this happen to any parent ever again. One dead kid in Richmond because of a bus driver's mistake or neglect is not acceptable. This was not acceptable. This cannot ever, ever, ever happen again to anybody's kid. What if I was in a car accident and there was a half day of school and you just left my kid there? It's just, something needs to be done. And that's all I got.
Can you put your name and phone number on that card? Is there a card sitting right there for you, please?
Yes.
Okay. And you said the half day. What half day was it?
It was a half day after Easter break,
Okay.
or after spring break, before Easter break.
Okay.
I don't know why you need
Okay,
a half
okay.
day in there, but
Okay.
for some reason that was necessary. All right. That was just this past, April 16th?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, would you grab the card? Anyone else? Okay, next, items of interest from members of the board. Does anyone have anything? I just have our update on our superintendent search. Tomorrow and Wednesday, we are doing site visits for our 2 finalists. And Wednesday night, we have our meeting at 7 o'clock here in the media center regarding our 2 finalists. So if you can mark it on your calendar to attend, please do. Next, committee reports. Budget and Finance. Jeff?
Budget and Finance met twice during our last month, once on the 15th of April, once on the 23rd. We reviewed monthly bills, which everything looked okay there. We also are asking to review the snow removal contract, being that only one company bid it last year. They made out this year, so hopefully someone comes in and we get 3 or 4 bids for next year's winner. We're also, tomorrow we're going to be having a budget workshop, and we're talking about a couple things. One, a change of the walk zone to a half mile instead of a mile, as well as we're looking at the possibility of doing a 2-way student athlete trips instead of just a 1-way, and then looking for a ride home. So we'll be reviewing that tomorrow. financial impacts.
And that means, that budget workshop's at 6 o'clock tomorrow night,
6 o'clock.
here.
Yes.
Okay, next, our student representative report. Colleen?
For the elementary school, the second grade teachers have started their annual Kentucky Derby unit. Students have been busy researching, writing, and making predictions about the Kentucky Derby. This Thursday, the Lego Club will gather once again to explore and build. Miss Dirt continues to have a huge turnout each week. This Friday marks the first of 3 kindergarten roundup sessions. The kindergarten staff is looking forward to meeting next year's kindergarten students. May 14th and 15th will kick off the first lunch with loved ones. Miss Evans came up with the idea and is working with teachers and kitchen staff to put on this event. For the middle school, the fifth and sixth grader students attended the Earth Day movie last Tuesday and had a great time. The band and choir students went this past weekend to Chicago and had an outstanding weekend. Students were very well behaved and had a great experience. Some upcoming events at the middle school include the State Corral Fest, which will be held on April 29th, and the Web Spring Play Day, which will be held on April 30th. The Richmond Middle School Student Council will be participating in the annual Richmond Historical Park cleanup on May 1st. Ms. Bartels and Ms. Shagnaw's BLA classes will be participating in a collaborative poetry cafe with students in North Carolina on May 1st. The event, McMuffins with Mom, will be on Friday, May 9th. Fifth grade students and staff will be attending the one-room schoolhouse in the week of May 12th. The 8th grade ELA students will be attending the Holocaust Museum on May 16th. The spring band concert will be held on May 13th, and the spring choir concert will be held on May 20th. And the NJHS induction ceremony will take place on May 21st. And for the high school, the junior and senior prom will be held on Friday, May 9th at 6 o'clock at Cherry Creek Golf Course. The band concert will be held on May 13th at 7:30 in the high school auditorium. Senior awards will be on May 15th at 6:30 in the auditorium. On Sunday, May 18th, the band will be having a vintage baseball game at 1 o'clock. May 21st at 7:30 is the choir concert, and this will also mark the last week for the seniors. Graduation commencements will be on May 30th at 7 o'clock at the Foreign Place in Port Huron. Senior all-night party will be the following day, May 31st. June 5th will be the underclassmen awards at 1 o'clock in the gym. And last week, 6 of the high school students were honored for their academic achievements at the BUAC All Academic Banquet. The students were given honorable mention, and 2 of the students were recognized for their academic as well as athletic achievements. And student Jennifer Merriman will also be awarded at the Macomb County Academic Banquet on April 30th.
Very good, thank you. And Colleen has a paper to write, so she's going to skate out the door here. That's why she's in the top 10. Okay, next, approval of consent agenda items. A motion would be in order?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next, administrative items, bond sale resolution. Dr. Olson?
I'd like to introduce Bill Pearson from Hendricks as the superintendent for the job. Oh, wait a minute, I'm jumping ahead.
Oh, no.
No, I'm sorry. I'll go back to the first item on the agenda, which is the bond resolution. And with us this evening, we have Beverly Bonning, our attorney from Truan's, who has been so helpful with the bond
Bill, you
sales.
want to do the resolution for me.
You're there now, go ahead.
I'm eager to get started with construction.
Well, good evening. I won't take up too much of your time. I know you have other items on your agenda. I'm Beverly Bonning from the Troon Law Firm, and was here just a short while ago on the last bond issue, and now I'm back with more good news. But I was sad to hear that none of your top 10 students were going into law. If they change their minds, they can come spend a day with me. You have before you a resolution. The process is very similar to your last series of bonds. This is the second phase of 3 phases for your bond issue for school construction. You may recall that we broke the first series of bonds actually into 2 series, A and B. One was done last December for federal tax law reasons I won't bore you with, but it's advantageous to the school district. So then we came right back around to do the second series in 2014. So tonight I'm here just to close the record, so to speak, at the board level for adopting a resolution ratifying and affirming the actions of your administrative staff in locking into interest rates on your second series. We're closing the bond issue, second series, this Wednesday, the day after tomorrow. We're ready to go. The deal is ready to go. All the documents are signed. It's just a question of transferring money and releasing bonds from a trust company in New York. So that's essentially the second phase will be closed. You'll have those series of funds by Wednesday. Very quickly, the resolution accomplishes 3 things. First, outlines the interest rates on the second series of bonds, which is the last page of the resolution, Exhibit A. Interest rates range from 3% to 4%, right? 3 to 4%.
Right.
These are bonds that go from 2015 to 2022. And these bonds are not subject to redemption prior to maturity, which is the second feature of the resolution. Most bonds that are under 10 years in duration are not subject to redemption, meaning they can't be paid prior to maturity. That is industry-wide standard. Very unusual to not have that kind of feature with your bonds. Your financial advisor structured the bond issue, and that translates into better interest rates for you as well. Because bond owners like bonds that they can hang on to and know that they're not going to be redeemed. This second series of bonds is in the amount of $3,360,000. You have about another $990,000 left to be issued in target date 2018. And lastly, this resolution ratifies and affirms the actions of the superintendent in locking into these interest rates, and all features and terms and conditions of this bond issue that were adopted by the superintendent are consistent with the resolution that was adopted by the board back in November when we set up all the parameters within which Dr. Olson operates for the sale of the bonds and the acceptance of the interest rate. So with that, do you have any questions of me about the second series? I know you signed almost, if not all, of the closing documents already.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Look at that turnaround. And before I answer or entertain any questions, again, let me emphasize how much we appreciate the work that's been done on this bond issue, because you've heard me say it before, this is a hurry up and wait business. You get these deals done when the interest rates are there for you, and we prevail upon your administrative staff, Vicki and Dr. Olson, to fit this into everything else that they're working on to get this deal done. And we thank you so much for that, and also thank you board members for signing the document and coming in to do so. But with that, do you have any questions about this second series transaction? Well, good.
No,
Thank you.
no, it's actually, thanks for explaining it. It's a good breakdown of explaining exactly what this is, what it means. Just a question that I have, just for procedure-wise here. Do we have to, can the motion be to just accept this resolution, or do we actually have to go through and read the whole entire?
No, you do not
Okay.
have to read it into the record. It's simply accepting the ratifying resolution as presented by Troon Law Firm.
Okay.
And I don't know, Dan, if you signed this resolution before the meeting, you haven't signed it yet, have you?
No.
Upon adoption of the resolution, if I could have Dan sign
a couple copies of the resolution, and I need to take them back. I need to give them a copy of the Department of Treasury before Wednesday.
Okay.
You did, you know what?
I did it with the office.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it
Oh, I'll just leave with those. Put you on the spot, sorry.
It is, I just put blanks in documents.
Oh, all right, great. Good. I just have to file one with the Department of Treasury on before the date of closing, so I'll take one with me tonight. Great. Anything else?
Anything else? Okay. Then,
Oh, roll call vote too. on
Yep,
that.
yep, I got that, yep,
Okay,
yep.
very good.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you again on behalf of the board.
Thank you. Then a motion would be in order?
Make a motion to approve the resolution as presented. Support?
Okay, it has been moved and supported. Any discussion? We'll do a roll call. Jeff?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Bridget?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Okay, next, construction contracts.
Okay, now that we have the funds, I guess we're ready to proceed with spending some of them, and I'd like to introduce to you at this time Bill Pearson. I know Margaret's had an opportunity to meet him, but I don't believe the other board members have. He'll be our on-site superintendent from Hendricks Construction. Chip, who you met earlier, was here this afternoon to further review on-site the bids and go over with Vicki the budget and items like that, and with me. He's been in very close contact with each of the bid items and been quite involved in this as well. So I'll turn it over to Bill to kind of explain to you the outcome of this and the process that was used.
First of all, thank you, on behalf of everybody in RC Hendrick, we do appreciate this opportunity to take care of your bond issue, so we thank you for that. We opened the bids on Tuesday, 22nd. 10 a.m. was the time. There were 25 bid categories. All but 3 had bids. There was a total of a total of 49 bidders. We had contacted about 300 people individually and invited them. Plus, we had ads in the paper here locally. We had Builders Exchange, Buy from Michigan. We tried to do the best we could at advertising it. It's kind of a strange year this year because there's more work than people right now, but that's just part of it. We reviewed the low qualified bidders with the architect, the mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, site designer, and of course, Dr. Olson was with us at almost all the meetings, which was a pleasure. And bids came in, which was nice to say, below the estimate we had figured, and enough so that we were able to take all the alternates. I think there was 10 different alternates included in the package, and we were able to take all of those. Also, just to throw it in, the contingency is a little stronger than we thought it was going to be, and that's also a good sign. I have a sheet I left with you. Someone left with you. And I don't know how you want to look at this. What we're doing is asking the board to accept the recommendations that we have made. We'd like that approval tonight if we could, and then we'll go ahead and immediately start contracts. We've got a couple ways to do this. When you look at the sheet you had, you can either do one at a time, which some do, or you can accept the full list as one, and that'll get us moving forward on the project. Any questions?
What was
Yes.
the average amount of bids per line item?
Well, it varied, some were 2, some were 6, just depends on what it was. Mechanical, which is a big one, we had a number of people, I don't remember the numbers, but we had 4 or 5, and that was one of the biggest. I think that was almost 2 million. So that one, we were happy about that. Electrical was good, was very good. Roofing was very good, and those are all the big ones. The smaller ones, we didn't, we mainly got 2. We had a couple of them that had one, we only got one bidder. We have not opened those yet. We're determining whether we should or not. We're looking at that.
So the one bidder, they're not on this list here, John?
I'm sorry?
The single bids are not on this list?
No, they're not. Except for, I should have changed, Efficient Design, which is mechanical. Pardon me, Mason. They're number 2. And Bloom's Construction, number 7. Those 2 we took. We did that based on the fact that we couldn't get any more. We called every mason that we knew of, and the same the drywallers. They were all busy. So what we did between myself and the architect, we tried to, and understand yet at this point, we haven't opened the bid, so we don't know what their bid is. We went through and tried to figure out where it would be at for the normal bid for somebody else. Based on our information, we looked at the sizes of all the rooms and so on. And when we got to it, we finally decided, and then we did call those contractors and asked them, and their bids are well within where they should be. And so because of the nature of it, we did accept them and take them. We have to be careful because the state has certain requirements. You can't just do that, so we wanted to make sure we did that all right. So those 2 were single ones, but we felt it was important we kept them because they were ready to move on to someone else, and they had told us that, not a threat. They just said, hey, we don't work today, we'll work tomorrow. So we didn't want to see that happen. We've worked with both of those contractors, and they're excellent.
Well, is there anything left out there that's still yet to be bid then?
We have 3 total. We'll bid 1, and that's going to be carpeting. And why we didn't get carpeting, I'll never know. We're all over, but that was a strange one. So we're gonna do that. And the other 2, I think, were just they were around $7,000 each. We'll probably just take those. And again, the state will allow that, just because we made calls today trying to find if anyone else could fit these categories, and they couldn't. So.
When you said take all alternates, I think it's when you said that. Can you explain what that means?
Well, yeah, what happens is a lot of times there's items that people would like to do,
Right.
but they can't. So we make a list of them, or the architect actually does, and I think there was 10. Is that right? I'm just not sure. I think there was 10.
In that vicinity. I mean, that's what you mentioned tonight, but I didn't make
Yeah,
a
and there
count.
was, they ran from
Right.
carpeting to new sidewalks, to
Right.
things of that nature.
Right.
And when we get all the bids down, the first thing we do is go through and see where we are with the budget.
Mhm.
We were in excellent shape.
Okay.
And so then we looked at the alternates, and we were able to take all of the alternates, which again was excellent for the school. So
Right.
that's what it meant.
Okay, that's what I thought you meant, but I just wanted
Well,
to make sure, because some of us.
We
not
get so
all of
used
us,
to
all
saying
of us
the
have
same
seen
words,
those.
that
Right, exactly, understood.
We
And
take
then
it for granted.
You said contingency, something was stronger, I think you said it right after that. Tell me a
When-
little more about what that means.
When, down at the very bottom of the budget, so to speak,
Right.
we have an item that protects you and us and everything, and that we put in a certain amount of money for contingency. Things are gonna happen on the job.
Sure.
We had a number that I think Vicki is aware of, and a few people are aware of, and, you try to maintain that through this
Right.
process. And it appears that we've actually gained on that, which is helpful.
Oh.
And at the end of the project, if that money is there, the school can do some more work. Somewhere maybe in July, we have a good idea where we're at, in case you say, hey, we'd like to do this or that.
Okay.
We can do it with that money.
Okay, okay. Great, thank you, it's good news.
I guess the only question I got is, and I don't know whether to get into it here or Someone's already brought something to the board's attention, I guess, number 19. There was an issue brought to the board earlier tonight, so I don't think we
Yeah,
should go ahead and.
I'll be happy to touch on it a little. I don't want to beat the guy up. But the bottom line is, when we opened the bid, there was no question in my mind that it didn't have everything. It couldn't. I've been at this a lot of years. The dollar amount just wasn't right. I did invite him in anyway, but I also invited in the next bidder. They just don't have what they had to have. They don't have, they're missing so much. So there's just nothing you can do about that. And a lot of big items, but little items, they missed addendums 3 and 4. I think they missed the majority of the scope of work. They didn't properly give us their EMR insurance rating. They didn't give us anything on alternate 6, which is the sidewalks. Now, had both bidders run into that, we could do something about it because the state allows that. If they both said, hey, we did something, we can do it. The other bidder had absolutely everything. Now, we talked to him before we talked to the other contractor, so, there's just nothing we can do. You can't go back after the fact when the bid's done. You cannot. In the eyes of the state, you'd be in trouble. You can't go back and say, hey, we'll give you a hand. We'll let you do it. You can't do that. They had the chance, and
So you didn't tell them to go ahead and go back and reconfigure his bid with all that stuff included?
no, I'll tell you, I don't know, if we can get into this. I don't want to get into it,
Well, but, hold on a second, but this is just what I want to say. We had a budget and finance meeting, and we were told that that was the day that bids were opened, and that there was a particular bid, that there was a big difference between 2 contractors, and we were told it was a $130,000 difference, and that the concern was that the one particular contractor might have missed a good deal of what they were bidding. And we were told that the contractor was going to be talked to about going and looking at it again because I'm telling you what 3 board members of a budget and finance committee were told, and that the person was going to have the ability, because small company, and that by that amount of money can put someone out of business. If you miss that much and you're awarded the bid, it can put you out of business.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
And so, without any knowing which bid it was, who it was, anything like that. And I'll be very honest, as we were told that information, in my mind, I'm thinking local contractors.
Yes.
And we are looking at trying to have as many local contractors as we can get, because our local people
Yeah,
are
they'll pay
who,
the bills.
right. So now if that's not what was represented, I mean, that's piquing my interest. That's what I want to know, how it all came about.
Well.
And then I want to know if the company that's getting the contract is now, are we saving any money with them? You know what I'm saying? Where is the bid coming in? Because supposedly we're saving all this money. Are we saving money with this contract? That's where I want to know what's going on.
Yeah, I can't answer. Well, I'll tell you how this went, but I hate to do this in public, but when the 3
Well, yeah,
of them came in.
it's hard to have to do it in public, but it's.
Well, no, but that's fine. When the 3 of them came in, I had one here, and they're trying to tell me what should be and what's this and what's that. And the first comment came from Dave, an older gentleman working for him. He's the one that first brought up, well, I'd like to go put this together. I didn't say it. When they first walked in, I said, in my opinion, you can't do it. So then, after I did that, I went over, I contacted the architect. I always felt that what I did and what I had was right. because there's a section in the book called earth moving that they should have looked at. They didn't, but they looked at asphalt paving. Again, the other guy didn't do that, he knew it. But I did go back, and I told him I'd do that. I said, I'll go back to the office and I'll review this to the trailer, because I thought that was fair, even though I knew it wasn't gonna change it, but I wanted to make calls. I called the architect, I called the civil engineer, I called the site engineer, and talked to him about it. I said, I don't want you telling me anything I want to hear. How would you have viewed this? Every one of them, all three of them said, we see it just the way you did. So that's.
So the bottom line is, you feel that they were non-compliant because they didn't.
Completely. And again, I feel as bad as you. I mean, I don't, you'd love to see a local person.
Mhm.
But you can't go back and do that.
Okay. And understand that we don't know. You know, we're
I
sitting here,
understand.
we don't know.
But
And-
again, that's not what we were told.
Right, and that's not what we were told.
Well,
So
in
that's
my
why,
mind-
that's why I had to
But
ask
it
the
happened
question.
quick, because what's happening is you've got three people, and that's why I said, I hate to even say it, I mean, they're nice people, but, you know, I got one saying this, and then when I said,
Listen,
well, are you the
listen.
guy talking? Then pretty
Yeah.
soon I hear, well, no, he's talking.
Absolutely.
So I looked at
You just
him, and,
gotta-
no, he's talking.
You have to follow the procedures. with
Absolutely, you have to follow
code this, so-
procedures, and I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I have to know as a board
Oh, I
member, I know
understand.
what was told to me, and so we just want to make
Yeah.
sure, and procedures are procedures. I get it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it
And-
was
and-
in process at the, when we had the finance meeting, we hadn't had the opportunity yet to have an interview with this on this particular contract set.
So is the aggregate base course, is that part of the asphalt, or is that part of the earthwork and site utilities?
Well, he has nothing to do with the asphalt, and I tried to show him in the book, the asphalt has two pages.
Well, if I'm a contractor and I'm looking at this bid packet, I'm gonna read every single page, because there could be other things in there that I might wanna,
No, because it's not done that way, because we give him a list. Every contractor has a list of what their scope is. So there's, for them to go into that, and they may feel that's what it is.
So are you saying that they, that particular contractor that's here tonight, did they leave out the aggregate base in the earthwork and site utilities?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, they left it all, they left out the geotextile blankets, they left out.
On BC 20, it says aggregate base course, which is gonna include the geo blankets and everything.
Right.
So I mean, that's where I'm coming from, and I don't see a reason why this particular item can't be put back out to bid.
You can put the whole thing out the bid. You gotta be careful, because it's tough right now, but you have to put the whole thing out to bid.
Why?
We don't have
When you're
to.
saying that there's already three that are not bid, that aren't included.
What do you mean, put the whole thing out to bid?
You can't put a piece of that contract out. If you're gonna do it, you have to put it all out. You have to put out that particular, you'd have to put out the site package again. You can't just, you can't put.
So you,
each
what you're
piece of
saying,
parcel.
you can't just put out number 19 is what you're saying. You'd have to put out the whole entire,
I don't remember which one is theirs, if it's 19 or not.
Does it BC 19 is the.
Okay, yeah, 19, you'd have to put that out in whole. Now, that has its own problems at this time of year. I mean, you know, you can do what you want. It's got goods and bads to it.
I mean, either way, they're both, from what I'm seeing, both of the people that have bid on it, and was it just two that bid on it? I mean, both of them are local, smaller, they're not big-time companies. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be able to get back and, you know, resubmit their bids. I would imagine if you were to say you needed them in by noon tomorrow, I
Well, you
would
can't do
imagine
that.
you'd have-
You have to completely redo it. You have to go back on the bid, start by Michigan. You have to wait for 2 weeks, then you can put it out. You have to do, you can't do that way.
Bill, did you get this out as general contractor, or did you get this out as sub?
I can't hear you.
Did you bid this out as general contractor?
No,
or it's all
construction management.
But it's all subcontractors?
It's all
All individual
between them and the
contractors?
school.
Yeah, okay. I
But
think I
that-
can
that-
help you out on this if you need my help, but it's totally up to you. if you need
But
my help.
I hope that what I'm telling them is correct, though.
Yeah, and I can support some things that Bill is expressing to you in terms of an explanation of what is required of you by law, that I think would help clarify the issue and then you could make a decision from that information, which will not be contrary to what Bill is saying, but it will help, I think, enlighten some of the issues that are involved, if you don't mind. Totally up to you.
Sure.
Okay, all right. I don't want to jump over the support.
No, I wouldn't want it to.
There we go. If you receive a non-conforming bid, which is essentially what this is, a non-conforming bid because of error, state law would not permit you to allow a bidder to go back and just fix the bid, because that's unfair to all the other bidders who submitted conforming bids. And now that non-conforming bidder has seen everyone else's bid and would then know what they need to do to come in again as the lowest bidder, because that information has now been shared, subject to the Freedom of Information Act. So in that circumstance, if council's contacted, and this is in the context of a public meeting, so I'm only going to share some things, because some of this should be an attorney-client privilege communication. Okay. So in this circumstance, your options are to accept the next lowest bidder, conforming bid, and that bidder is a responsible bidder and the bid is conforming, or to rebid that entire work that those bidders submitted for. And to rebid requires you to start over again with the process. If you are working on something that is time sensitive, then clients don't necessarily want to rebid because you're starting a process, maybe you're trying to get the work done before school starts. Or if it's not time sensitive, you might decide we're rebidding that component of the bid package if it's possible to do so. And then you rebid, you start the process over again for that component of the bid project if the project's set up that you can segregate that and bid it as a separate package. But the decision to award to the next lowest bidder because the first bidder is non-conforming is consistent with state law. I hope that's helpful. The issue about miscommunication or the disconnect is something I can't address, which is kind of a separate issue. That's a policy issue, not a legal issue, but understandably difficult for the board because that creates some concern at the local level with your local contractors. But what's most important is that what the greatest goal is, as identified by state law, court cases, and the Attorney General's opinion, is to protect the integrity of the bidding process. Bottom line. It's not about the disgruntled contractor, albeit, understandable. It's not about protecting your construction manager. It's about protecting the integrity of the bid process for all parties involved. So I hope that's helpful for you.
Thank you.
And I'll stick around if you need me to.
You say it's so much nicer than I do.
But I could never bid out a package of masonry. You wouldn't want me to do it.
So basically, that was my,
Can't,
what was my
sorry.
point is that, it makes it.
So if you were to rebid that, how long of a process is that? If you were to rebid
About 3.5 weeks.
3 weeks or a month. What's the timeline for the items number 19 and 20?
Sorry?
What's the timeline for 19 and 20?
When do you gotta break ground or for that particular item?
Well, we want to start as soon as school's out.
So this is,
But it's all the items, that's what I'm trying to say, it's all of the site work items, you can't just pick
right,
it.
because this isn't clear. I mean, you can't say that aggregate base course is part of earthwork utilities when it's
Well,
nowhere
but
listed
you
here.
don't have the earthwork spec. The
No.
earthwork spec is that thick, that he's supposed to be bidding.
We don't have the whole scope of work
No,
here.
you don't.
You're
Right,
looking at.
but it also says underneath asphalt paving.
You have
So
certain
if I'm a
pages, you
bidder, if
don't.
I'm a bidder, looking at a contractor looking at this, I'm gonna look and say, well, aggregate base course is underneath the asphalt paving, so I'm probably gonna leave that out because that could be $100,000, it could be $200,000 added to my bid, and that could price me out of contention of the earthwork site utility.
He shouldn't, he did, that has nothing to do with him right there, that spec. That had to do with the paper.
So are we paying for it twice then? Is that what you're, are we paying for the aggregate base course under the asphalt, and are we paying for it under earthwork site utility?
No, it's gonna get paid under the earthwork
then why does it say it underneath asphalt paving?
Well, it might have been a mistake. Well, no, but I mean, those happen to all of us, but the fact is.
Well, no, it shouldn't. It shouldn't happen.
But the fact is, in his scope that he should have been reading, which is 31, 2000, and it has 12 pages in it, not just 2.
But the fact is, he didn't. Whether he read it or not and read the whole thing, great if he read the whole 1,300 pages. It says it here. So I would like to see this portion of it read it.
You can't do that portion of it, you have to
You
do.
just said we can do, you can do just, you can do the whole earthwork site utilities can be rebid.
Yeah, we can do the whole site work.
If you're saying it's gonna take 2 to 3 weeks, then
Well, it takes what, yeah, I mean, you have to follow the state guidelines, so.
I don't see that's gonna have any impact on delaying the project.
I didn't say it did. I think it has its own possible pitfalls.
And I think we're talking about a cost savings of over $100,000, potentially,
Well, I'm not,
potentially.
I don't,
And the
it's
risk
hard to
is
say
though, when you
because he had so
rebid the
many
whole,
items.
the risk of rebidding the whole package, and I'm not telling you what you should do in terms of how it is, those other bids that did come in could come in higher because you're rebidding the entire package. That's what you're rolling the dice on that.
True.
But, I mean, it could also bring contractors to maybe sharpen their pencil too, right? They could work both ways.
Right. But that's the job of your CM to gauge that with the bidders.
Well, let's look at it this way. Obviously, Dan's made his feelings known, and we're looking at these bids. Is there anyone else that agrees with Dan that we're looking at the number 19 earthwork and site utilities of looking at wanting to rebid that portion of the package?
But either that or I want to hear specifically what was missed, because, I mean, all I heard was some generals. What was missed specifically?
What was specific?
What was, yes.
Well, their scope of work, when we put these packages out, their scope of work tells them what they have to do. In their scope of work, there's aggregate that's gonna go under the track. There's geotextile grid that's gonna go under the track. Those things were all missed by them. And then when I tried to tell them in a meeting that I'm showing them, and it's written, they're saying, oh, no, you're not right, you're not right. Well, yes, I am right, I know what I'm doing. So it's not just this.
But
Gravel.
you said 2 specific items that were missed. Well, we were told in our budget and finance meeting that there was a disconnect. Those 2 items were the disconnect, and their bid was just thrown out for that?
We had not interviewed at that point
Yeah, but you
with the Budget
specifically
and
told us
Finance
there was-
Committee meeting.
There was a low bid that came in that was very low, and that contractor was gonna be talked to, because the construction management firm didn't wanna put them out of business. That's what was stated.
Because we interviewed
Now, you didn't
every
talk about interviews.
contractor.
You didn't talk about interviews, you said.
Well, that was talking to them. We were talking to them in the interviews. I'm
So
sorry
what
if
happened
that,
what happened in the interview?
that interview had to be rescheduled to Thursday because they missed the interview time. And I could not be there on Thursday, nor could Vicki. And we had Dave Mylart, our athletic director, and Anthony sitting on the meeting with Mr. Pearson.
So I'm not sure, I wasn't in on when the comment came up about these folks. And what I said is we need to talk to them, but we gotta make sure that if they don't have everything, we have to tell them about it, because once you sign a contract, then you put them on, we put them out of business. That's the only thing I ever said that, yeah. I'm not sure how it relates to what you heard, It was just simply that, we have a duty too. We can't take somebody that we know is real low, that we offer it to them, but they can't say, well, no, we missed this, we missed that, we did this, we did that. I mean, that isn't what it's for.
So basically, what you're stating, they missed 2 specific items,
Well, the two big ones that is, that, yeah, and then, and I know they, you know, I don't know how many little ones, I named you a few of them, I mean, they didn't list the addendums, which you're supposed to do. They didn't give us the insurance that you're supposed to do, they didn't pick up the alternate, which they should have done. I mean, those are all things that's their job to do, you know, it's not, and so none of those were done, in addition to these other ones.
And that was in addition to missing the scheduled interview.
So the contractor missed the interview.
That interview that was posted
Okay.
after the bid opening, you know, there was a list of what time slots each.
Well, my opinion, Dan, I understand your concern about we could possibly save money, but if he thinks it's fair and reasonable with the second lowest bidder that was conformant, we're probably not gonna save that $100,000. I would assume.
Say $50,000,
Well,
it's still saving money.
You may or may not, but if someone puts in a bid, they're not compliant or conformant, and you can't come back and say, well, I missed 3 things. If you missed it, then you're out of the process. You can't come back, otherwise, this closed biddings, you'd never get them done. So it's unfortunate for a company, and whoever's bringing up we could put someone out of business, we shouldn't even be talking about that. It's just, they were either conformant or they were not. They can do the work or they cannot, so.
Even when it's not spelled out?
Well, I'd have to see the entire scope of work. But
The fact is that we have time on site work. If it's not even gonna start until the school year ends, we have 4 weeks.
well, I would just remind everyone that if we're talking about all small companies, it costs money to put proposals together. So now you're asking the other companies that were conformant to go back and sharpen your pencil or redo it all, because now everyone's gonna look at it and say, well, now what do we do now? Do we hold firm because that was our no kidding bottom dollar, or do we try to sharpen our pencils? It just costs small companies more money to put another bid in. But
Well, I mean, not if all we have to do is resubmit.
well, you could.
We're talking about 2 local companies and the potential savings for the district and no delay on the project. I don't see any reason why everybody,
Yeah, what's the risk?
I'm not convinced it's not gonna be a delay though. And I don't want a delay to happen. We don't have enough time as it is because school has been extended. I want kids in these classrooms. I want that to happen, and so I don't, I really, it bothers me.
I agree, and I feel like too, they didn't just miss the things that were in here, they missed some big things, the insurance, there was other things that they missed, not just a couple of these. It was spelled out, they missed the basics though too. I mean, that's non-conforming, or conforming.
So it's the best way to move forward, we have to go individually with these, and the idea that,
No, I think we can do all of them, but the one that's in contention, at least move forward and get all of them but number 19.
Well, why doesn't someone make a motion to approve the recommended contractors as presented with the exception of number 19?
I move the approval of the recommended contractors for the contract list at their specific bid, with the exception of DC number 19. Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. I won't ask for discussion because we've had plenty. Right? I'm assuming, okay. And I will do a roll call for that. Dan?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Bridget?
Aye.
Andy?
Nay.
Threw me there. Tracy?
nay.
I vote aye. 1, 2, 3, 4. I had to count. That's the first time I've had to count in a really long time on this. Okay, motion carries 4-2. Now that leaves us with number 19.
I would like to make a motion to rebid bid category number 19, earthwork and site utilities. Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported to rebid number 19, earthwork and site utilities. It's not gonna go wrong. Okay, any discussion? Dan,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Bridget,
Nay.
Andy,
Nay.
Tracy, oh, it's so good to be the last vote. Well, unfortunately here, either way that I go, if I vote aye, nothing happens, because we only have 6 people here this evening. So that means that it dies, I guess, until next month, and that puts us at a whole nother month.
Absolutely.
So if I vote no, if I vote no, I'm going to vote no because I think that I agree on both ends on the conforming, and I agree that the project has to keep going. And I really wish that all 7 board members were here like they were supposed to be tonight, because that would really help, and everyone's voice could be heard. I'm going to have to vote no. So that motion fails. So then, that means that someone's going to have to make a motion then to approve number 19, earthwork and site utilities, so that we can get moving on that one.
I make a motion to approve BC number 19, earthwork site utilities as presented.
Second. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Tracy?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Dan?
Nay.
Jeff?
Nay.
Bridget?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Next, our Lee School Spotlight. Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Benoit?
It's a pleasure to be here tonight with myself and some other members of Lee Elementary here. I do want to thank the staff members who took time to come out tonight, Mrs. Durst, Mrs. Wilson, Mrs. Miller, I see, Mrs. Cousdale, Mrs. Stewart, Mrs. Worth. Thank you all so much for being here today. I sincerely appreciate that. We've talked a bit before last month about the math. So I wanted to, we've been targeting math all year. It goes back to before the school year started. It goes back to last year when I had invited Mary Ann Schrock from the ISD math consultant to come out and work with our team. And throughout that process, Ms. Gaybridge at the time, who was working in curriculum, was working with some companies, and she purchased a program called Greenbox. So I wanted to highlight tonight Greenbox, but essentially, and the most important thing, and you heard this a couple times, actually each finalist last week talked about a multi-tier approach when it comes to reading and math, and we have targeted math this year quite a bit. Tier 1 in a 3-tier approach is what we call whole group instruction. So all students in the class received initial whole group instruction. Tier 2 marks our intervention program in the morning, where all students participate and all students go for some level of support, depending on what their support or enrichment might be. And in the afternoon, some students who need additional support receive additional support in math and reading. And those would be our Title I students. We also initiated, through the efforts of Mr. Berkmeyer, eSpark, which I'll talk about as well. In your packet that I gave you, the first thing you'll see is on Greenbox. Greenbox is rigorous, very rigorous. We get a chance to put the children at 2 different levels. We can click intervention, which will automatically take the children back a year and a half below their grade level, or we can omit checking the intervention box, and the children will go 6 months below their grade level. I initiated 3 different training sessions, webinars if you will, with Greenbox, with the entire staff, especially with the title staff. Within your little packet there on Greenbox, it's just 2 pages back and forth, but it is adaptive, as is eSpark, meaning depending on how a child does on answering a question, they're either going to take them forward or take them back a little bit. It is certainly related to the Common Core. It is all data-driven. The handout you have talks about their the things that they're doing with their program, making it individualized, making it fun, and talking about how it works. The second page you have is a very brief handout on printout of one of our children's progress. If you take a look at that, I know it's hard to see, I should have done it in color, but this child, there's 3 things. The first color you would see to the left of the bar is gray, which means they skipped all that curriculum based on their initial placement. The next color means they passed a pre-test for the unit. And the third color would be that they passed based on completing the curriculum. And at the bottom of that, you can see what units they are working on in kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and 4th grade. Essentially, that's what Greenbox is doing. So we can put them either at a grade and a half below or 6 months below, and based upon what their needs are, Greenbox as an app can help them enrich their lessons. The rest of your packet is broken down into the 4 pillars of eSpark. The first one, and I don't know if they're in the correct order, is relevant student-centered curriculum. The second one is understandable, actionable data. The third one is streamlined, easy iPad setup. if that's the order they should be in. And East Park has just been kicked off at our school recently. East Park works a little bit differently in that they work with an assessment you're already doing, which at Richmond is NWEA. They analyze how the students did, what they need to work on. Then the teachers will work on establishing goals that they need. It's actually right in a drop-down menu. Click and drag which goals the children need to work on. Once we get them all loaded in and get all that done, then the Dreambox people come out and they, based on what the students need, actually do the purchasing of the apps to meet those children's specific goals. It saves us all the work of looking through thousands of apps for that. We still are currently doing Success Maker, especially for reading, but I think the really neat thing is we have got Dreambox, East Park, Success Maker. We have 60 students on Dreambox. We have 100 students just starting East Park. We have another 100 students on Success Maker. And these devices, and I say this all the time, to some people, I realize that they look at this as children playing games, and essentially it's a toy. The children today, this is not a toy, it's a tool. And it's a tool that works. So I did bring some students with me today to demonstrate for you. But first I have a little bit of a PowerPoint and an explanation on Dreambox, which will take a couple of minutes. And then after the PowerPoint is over, all my friends here will come up. So I know Ms. Talto introduced them once, but it's Savannah Cribby and Haley Cribby and Logan Rosso, Haley Harrison. Haley Harrison is the daughter of one of my former students. Paige Harvey, Kayla Guinea, Chloe Peel. And the first thing you're going to hear is an introduction, 2 minutes, on Dreambox.
At Dreambox Learning, we've developed an intelligent, adaptive learning technology that accelerates student learning. Dreambox combines rigorous curriculum, motivating learning environments, and a powerful, intelligent, adaptive engine that delivers millions of individualized learning paths, each one tailored to a student's unique needs. With a K-5 math curriculum that effectively teaches the Common Core state standards, Dreambox supports all students, whether they are on level, advanced, or in need of intervention. It's the powerful technology behind Dreambox that makes it so effective.
Here's a hint. 1/6 of an hour, 10 minutes.
Dreambox goes beyond recording right and wrong answers
Remember, you can use the blocks to help you.
and optimizes a student's learning path based on level of comprehension, efficiency of strategy, help needed, response time, and more. Dreambox supports teachers and administrators with real-time reporting. And independent research shows that Dreambox accelerates student learning. Contact us today to learn more about how to bring Dreambox to your school.
I'd like to think that all children on Dreambox are happy, very happy on Dreambox.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Because I'm happy.
So now my friends are going to come up to each of the board members and give you a little bit of a demonstration on DreamBox with the assistance of one of our Title I technicians, Mrs. Malott. So they're already logged on. So these are all third and fourth graders.
Okay. So this is yours because your name's there? Okay.
Is it easy to use?
All right, show me what you got here anyway. So it's loading, okay. Doesn't really go as fast as you need.
So then you have to do
Good at math.
5 1/5. So you do one of these. Put it in the box.
Okay.
And then you would do 10 eyes. So then you would do 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the beginning of the school year. It's really fun. I just have to count.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So do you use a computer too? This is or another computer?
9, 10.
Your computer or iPad? Sure, that's easy.
And then it comes down here and then puts it in.
So that means you got it right, so there's your point.
And if you bend on this so long, they give you like this, and then once it's in practice, then if your teacher says go and practice, then it's going to turn it into like a silver.
Okay.
Because if you go right here,
Yeah.
it will show you like that is in progress.
Okay.
You ever eat squid before? You ever eaten squid? We're just counting squids.
So what did you do like this? No, seriously?
I don't know.
I wouldn't say that. Wouldn't say that at all.
I
Okay.
had to do it on the table.
Okay.
I know. So it shows. It would be great if we were on the during
She likes fractions. I have that on my. Makes them fun.
I'll
Go figure.
Go out there and do a reading thing.
Go figure.
DreamBox? DreamBox is math only. And it's, right now they're currently.
Not bad.
first grade. Well, what else besides fractions?
They learn about squids too a little bit. So I asked her, she
Then there's all
I know
different
it's
ones
good.
like this one.
You can count them, but you can't eat them.
So you get to use it every day?
Yeah. We,
Okay,
except
so
on
this one,
Fridays because we're
do
not
it wrong on
at
purpose, let me see what
It
happens.
runs a little slow because we're not there's titles there for that.
Oh, yeah, right.
Go there and go to the archive every single day and get the good network.
Well, that makes sense, doesn't it?
So does it take money away, or you just keep your money?
So then you put, these are all 30s. And like threes, like for the new ones, they get harder and harder. And then it puts it in these little boxes, so now it's gonna be 6 times 1, because you can see it right here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's gonna be 6 times 1 is 6. For the, in progress ones, you put
The zeros.
adding in, and then that one's just adding a 0, so it's adding a 0 there. And that one's gonna be
Here's the
30.
hundreds, and here's the great
But
boxes.
you got the zero in there, right? Okay. So then you go to this one,
6 times 5 is 30.
right? So then you just put 30 in there.
Then you do 4,000.
You rather use this thing or listen to the teacher up on a chalkboard?
I certainly do.
Rather do this?
Right here.
So you just sit there in the classroom with your headphones on and just learn
Great.
away.
We about wrapped up there?
One more, we're finishing this problem, hold on. At least here we are, hold on.
Okay.
Just give us a minute.
You think everyone will learn good with this kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm a little slow on the uptake here.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
I would get a student who loves fractions, why, I have no idea, but she's into fractions. What are we doing?
So what do you do with the money? You use all the money.
30, right? Right.
You don't need to buy squid. No, okay.
Look at that. Beautiful. Nice job, Haley. Oh, so it just keeps, then it just gives you the next hardest problem to do? Very good. Very impressive. Thank you. Thank you very much, Haley.
They're all proud of the tools.
yeah. Sometimes there's harder ones like you can try with other blocks. There's other blocks. And then sometimes you can't make them, so it's really hard that way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Too bad they couldn't use that at home. On the website, and actually they do it at home.
Just to wrap up, like I said, this is all adaptive. We've been working really hard on our multi-tier approach. Last year when it was our turn for the audit, and the Michigan Department of Education representatives were here, when they gave their oral reflection at the end of their site visit, they made mention of our multi-tier program at Lee, and very proud of that. And I'm really glad we targeted math this year, and we just need to continue to do that. So I thank you. Feel free to keep your packet. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you ever want to stop by and jump in on some Dreambox,
Thank you.
please do.
Thank
My
you.
thanks to all the parents who stayed. Thank you for bringing your children tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And thank you to the students very much. Okay, next item, MISD budget resolution. Dr. Olson?
This is a typical resolution, and I think, Mr. Odekirk, were you who was at the budget hearing?
I'm the alternate.
Aren't you the one that went?
Yes, I
Yeah.
guess I did.
Yes, you sure did.
Anyway, the state law requires that local districts pass a resolution in support of the Macomb Intermediate School District budget, and that's what this is in here for.
And we do this every year.
We do this every year.
Okay.
I believe they had a hearing recently.
Okay. Then a motion would be in order to approve the resolution as presented.
I make a motion to approve the Macomb Intermediate School District budget resolution as it has been presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next. Oh, Anthony, I looked up to call you, and there you are. Computer purchases.
All right, as per the bond, one of the items that we'll be doing is upgrading our technology throughout the district. As many of you are aware, or all of you, Windows has stopped its end-user support for Windows XP. So we will be upgrading our computer systems to systems that can minimally handle Windows 7 and can also handle our state testing model, which will be smarter balanced for next year. These computer purchases that I have before you, 215 computers and 1 laptop, will replace all of the teacher computers and 2 labs worth of computers. It is being done through the 22I project, the TRIG project that we have received grant funds for. As part of that, they also have accelerated bid within REMC with increased savings even below the REMC cost and the possibility of receiving funds back for every computer that we purchase off of that bid. So we did project these purchases on there. And by purchasing them through the 22I bid, we have a savings of $119,930 from what was projected on our bond package, which could be more technology in the classroom.
Right, that's great. There's a sample resolution.
I got one question. I think.
Yeah.
So when I read this, this just says computers. But then when I go down the bottom, looks like the ROM includes monitors, so.
Yes, this is the computers and the monitor upgrades that go with them.
It's what are we doing with the old monitors?
Many of them will be recycled. Some of the computers that we are using can be upgraded, which we will be assessing as we see which ones we can put extra RAM into, and those monitors will be used with those computers to replace even some of the older computers in the labs, to try to keep a rotating cycle so not all of our computers have to be replaced at once.
Okay.
I did a little investigation today, and this price is about half the price of what if we were to go out and buy it ourselves. Yeah. So, quite a good deal.
With the possibility of receiving, right now they're projecting about $35 per desktop that you purchase. They will give us that.
Right, right, which is
And so
big.
that's not, and that dollar figure is not included
That's
in the
not
savings.
included in the savings.
Oh, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
I move to purchase the computer systems in the amount of $139,269.22 from the bond funds as presented.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Okay, I'll do a roll call. Tracy?
Can I ask a question real quick?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, Corinne. So in the discussions about technology and all, you mentioned that some of these are going to go in labs. From what I understand, once we have more students, individual devices within, what are those computer labs then going to be used for if kids in the classroom have devices?
It depends on the actual device that we set. One of our goals and processes of this, which we will be starting very soon for the individual device now that we have the classroom technology set, is what goals, how do we want to impact the curriculum with our one-to-one device. In some cases, that might not include a device that will do word processing, for example, because it will interact with the curriculum better. So we need to set those goals before we choose the device. For example, at Lee Elementary, touch devices such as the iPad might be a better choice, and it's hard to do some of the things that you could do on a computer. And it'll also help with our state testing model. If you have a little iPad with a screen this big compared to a monitor when you're testing, it might be helpful to rotate some of those students through the lab instead of testing on an iPad.
Anybody else?
A Microsoft Office license.
That, we will be purchasing a Microsoft Office license, and an Office 365 will be included with that. We're not there yet when the computers on the way. These computers do come with Windows 8 downgradable to Windows 7.
Good. Okay. I'll do a roll call. Tracy?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Bridget?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Next, NWEA license renewal.
NWA was our web-based monitoring testing software that we purchased this year. This is our first year working through it, and has already provided some valuable information for the teachers in the classroom to be able to differentiate learning and determine where our students actually need the most support. The county has agreed to, for this year, this current school year and next school year, to pay half of the cost for both the English and math portions of NWA, which gives us quite a savings. As we're doing it, we do have to front the money, and then we will bill the ISD for it. This software, we feel, is going to be invaluable in determining and differentiating learning as we move forward within the classroom. And it also ties into things such as eSpark, so it can help differentiate and determine what apps, for example, students really need the most help on. And that's the direction we want to go with each teacher too. What specific areas can we help? So this license purchase would be for us to use the NWA testing for the 3 tests, fall, winter, and spring for next year for all grade levels.
Okay. There's a sample resolution.
I move to renew the license with NWEA for the 14-15 school year as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Questions? Okay, I'll do a roll call. Andy?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Bridget?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Anthony. Next, Neola April updates.
Okay, I think we'll go through and we'll read this back.
Think again?
No, I think I'm going to try to get through it relatively easily. The first one is a revised bylaw, and it has to do with, and this is recommended, it's not required that we take it, but I would recommend that we take it. On page 2 of 3, there's an added paragraph which reduces it if you use a punctuation, typographical, a very small correction to be made. We no longer would have to go through two readings.
Can you hang on a second? You have to get back to where those are, so technology is.
Okay, you'll let me know when you're ready.
Find out if we don't.
You want to
Yeah,
share?
just gotta look at yours. I didn't realize, when I was looking at this last night, I didn't realize that they changed our bylaw. I thought, I guess I forgot that. I realized they changed our bylaw. You know, I think we did, our Richmond, we did ourselves. I missed that.
I'm not sure how, but it's okay.
Are you able to get to it, Andy?
Are we
You
all
two are
ready?
good? Are you good?
Loading your iBooks.
We're good. What'd you say?
Loading your iBooks, it works faster.
Okay, the next policy, we're going to take as a group, 1422, 3122, which is, as it relates to the professional staff, and then 4122 as it relates to support staff. So it's different renditions of the same thing. And in these and in several others, they're recommending that instead of having one 504 compliance officer, ADA coordinator, Title IX coordinator, that you have two, one of a person of opposite genders. And so for purposes of tonight's meeting, I have myself and Anthony in here. But then once we know, between now and the second reading, we may have an offer for the superintendent. And so then the names will probably change by the time we actually submit it, so that we have a person of opposite genders.
Can I ask a question about that, real quick? As I was reading this process, and I don't think I really talked when we've had other policies that have a compliance officer like that, it seems as though that in the process, that coming to that officer is one part of the process, and coming to the superintendent is a second part of the process. So if the superintendent is the compliance officer, does that not alleviate a step in the process?
No, because we have, a building person that they can go to, and then they can come to me, but or they can come directly to me. But ultimately, I'm the named person. Because we don't have a large central office to have this assigned.
No, I understand, but it says in the policy, it says that someone's gonna come to the building level, and then they're gonna come with information to the compliance officer.
And then ultimately end up
after
with the
that,
second.
it goes to the superintendent
Right.
for a final decision. And if the superintendent is that compliance officer, it feels as though we eliminate a step. That's all I'm saying
Well,
about it.
I guess we could go through and try to eliminate that, because we don't have that many layers in this district.
And maybe it's just me.
No, but we did talk about that the last time.
So, I mean, we could try to take that out, but it ultimately gets to the superintendent because we don't have that many layers here.
But it seemed to me as though the law was requiring that you name a compliance officer, right? Isn't that what it was
Yes,
saying?
and now it's saying you have one of each gender.
Right, which makes complete sense.
Which is a
to me.
recommendation.
Okay. So if it doesn't feel to anybody else as though it's a problem, it's probably just me then, so it's okay. We can leave it the way it is. Fine.
Okay, policy, unless anybody has any further questions, I mean, a lot of this is pretty straightforward, they just added the language to it, so I wasn't gonna go page by page. Policy 1619, And then 3419 refers to the professional staff, and then 4419 refers to the support staff. Revisions to these policies reflect the most recent revisions to the Healthcare Insurance Portability and Accountability Act privacy rule, and should be adopted to maintain accurate policies. So that's just adding additional language. And on that, let's see. I noticed today on what I had given you that this was a new policy, and I overlooked because it wasn't in bold as new sections are, that it was, the whole thing was new. And so the first 4 items of the check, so the medical plan, prescription plan, dental plan, and vision plan is what we have offer.
It's 1619.
And so that's what should be checked on
Because that's what we offer.
there. And the same then on the next policies, 161902, 341902, and 441902, again referring to the different groups. Revisions to these policies reflect the most recent revision to the Health Insurance Portability Act and privacy rule, and should be adopted to maintain accurate policies. And again, I put the superintendent in here to serve as the security official, because I'm also the HR person in this district. Okay, the next one is 1623, 3123, and 4123, again for the different groups. In accordance with the policy revisions regarding non-discrimination and anti-harassment issues, similar revisions have been made to these policies. The complaint procedure has been added to these policies. And that was a new law that you had to have the complaint procedures added to the policies. Any questions?
Just talked in here about having training and information about discriminatory, all that discrimination and all employees and students.
Mm-hmm.
Does that currently already happen?
Yes, we do that with our Safe Schools through SETSAG.
And that happens for employees yearly?
It depends on, we do different things from time to time. So we did a harassment one last year, I believe, but we don't necessarily repeat that one every year. We do the bloodborne pathogens on that every year, but some of the other ones we kind of pick and choose, and then it kind of depends.
And then with students?
That's done at the building level. Okay, 2260. These revisions intend to provide a consistent framework and timework for dealing with issues related to bullying based on sexual orientation and transgender identity. So when we had to add those items to our non-discrimination clause, then this adds.
And genetic information, that's in bold, are you on 2260?
Well, I'm going off the yellow sheets right now, but I am on 2260, so let me turn to it in the.
Yeah, it's folded on the first page.
2261.
Yeah. The genetic information is on there.
Okay.
Page 4 has some additional items. 5. There's a lot added to that one. 226001, Section 504, prohibition against discrimination based on disability revised. In accordance with policy revisions regarding non-discrimination and anti-harassment issues, similar revisions have been made to this policy. The complaint procedure has been added to this policy. 2370, the online blended learning revised. Revisions to this policy reflect the most recent legislation and MDE guidance. These revisions reflect the current state law and should be adopted. So it adds a lot of new language, but there's not a lot of choices about it as far as on page 3.
Well, we really do, I mean, this legislation passed and said that we really do have to offer pretty much K-12 online education.
Absolutely, that's what it is. Mhm.
Okay, 3121 and 4121. This is criminal history records check with regard to professional and support staff. Revisions to these policies are consistent with the recent changes regarding the record checks for contracted workers and third-party vendors. This is in conjunction with the policies that we just passed with the changes where we have more responsibility again, where they took it back the way it used to be.
Where it's coming back to us now, our responsibility.
And has it been for a number of years that individuals have to pay for those fingerprints?
Yeah, always in this district. Always in my past district. The past 2 districts I'm in.
And how much is that?
$25. No, it's more like 70. Because the.
Shows how long it's been since I.
55 is, I think, the federal part of it, so there's.
Okay. That's what I thought it was in that zone the last time I had it done.
Entrance age, and this is just updating our policy to reflect the recent legislative changes to the birth date and admission to kindergarten. And 5330 is the new policy addresses the requirements regarding administration of medication, specifically the use of EpiPens, yes, EpiPens. I did look at this today. 5717 revises, again on harassment, revisions to this policy corrects the maximum age to 26 or younger for students with disabilities.
Tracy needs to go back to EpiPens.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay,
That's
sorry,
all right.
it's no problem. If what I read was there, it talked about people being trained on how to use them, and I wasn't really.
The ISD has stated that they're going to assist us with that.
Okay. I just wasn't clear, in the language that I read, it wasn't really clear that it named coaches as people who need to be trained, and so I just wanted to make sure that that was a part of the plan. for that
Mhm.
one. Because sometimes they're not school district employees, you know, they're.
Right,
you know,
right,
and so you just
exactly.
want to make sure that they're in the realm of being trained for that. The last time I had first aid CPR training, it was real clear that notifying 911 after you administer an EpiPen is really pretty important. Because it can shock the system, and that, I mean, maybe that'll be in a policy down the road that that's what for sure will happen, but it talks about calling the parent right away, which of course we would do, but it didn't mention making that phone call previously. That's all.
No, it's a good point.
I don't know.
No, in my son's medical plan, it says call, administer, call 911.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's just what I had
Yeah,
learned.
within
So
30
just-
minutes, too, there's a time frame.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
should get there.
Yep.
Within 30 minutes.
Yeah,
of
there's,
the
there's,
episode.
anyway, just want to make sure that's a part of the plan moving forward with that.
Who teaches the staff?
The ISD has said that they are going to provide that, because
house
this
and a
is
nurse,
new.
I think.
I'm just curious, I think, excuse me, I think Richmond Lennox does it also, but, you know, they
That's what I learned from
don't,
them.
they don't have a nurse, I don't, not
Right.
that I know of that has done it in the past, but.
Okay, I think we're at 8420, emergency situations at school. Revisions to this policy are required in the recent enactment of Public Act 12. And reflect current law.
I think it's the most very last one.
Oh, this is with regard to the changes in requirement on the drills that we have to have next year. To have 5 fire, yeah, we have no choice on this, 5 fire drills and when they're conducted,
Yep.
2 tornado drills.
Right.
And how you
5 fire
record them.
drills, 3 of them
And they're
done by
recorded on the
December 31st.
website.
And how you record them,
But
notify.
there's no choice to this, it's just all language.
You have to do them.
Pretty tricky.
But important for safety.
So unless you have any questions, take this as a first reading.
Yes, indeed.
Was there information in some, one of these about defibrillators? Did I read that?
I don't think in this set.
I don't think so.
Oh, look, it's right there. 8420, page 4 or 5, cardiac emergency response plan. It talks about defibrillators. Does every one of our buildings have one? I forget.
Yes.
You know that?
Yes, and EMS comes in and checks them periodically for us, replaces batteries, replaces anything that needs replacing.
Okay. Next, public comments. It's our second public comments portion of the meeting. If anyone has anything they'd like to address the board about, you can come forward. Yes.
Once again, my name is Roberta Schmidt, and I have a question concerning those green boxes that are available for the elementary school. Are they in iPads? Are they also available for the special ed students in the middle school? Because that would seem like that would be a very useful tool for a child that is very, very far behind to learn more efficiently. And I don't know why it's not being provided to the special ed at the middle school.
It was piloted this year at the elementary school, and certainly can band, now there is one little issue with that, in terms of the way this program is funded. It's funded through Title I fund. The elementary is the only Title I school in the district. So,
But if the children need it to learn, why is it not being provided to other grades?
if there's other ways to fund programs, then certainly we could expand that, but you are limited when you're using Title I funds to having children use it who are in Title I.
We do have devices in our special ed program. We purchased those, I believe it's almost 2 years ago. And, you know, with our bond, every student will have a device.
The only iPad that I'm aware of in my son's class was obtained through a grant through the Autism Society. He does not have his own iPad in his classroom. It was a grant and has to be shared. So, and iPads are very useful for autistic children to learn. And I don't know why they're not being provided as a tool to teach an autistic child, when obviously they're being used by Title I. Why is not being used by other children who could also benefit from it?
We had a goal to do just that, and that's one of the reasons why we went for the bond, so that we could provide it for every student, because we feel every student could benefit by it.
So it's coming, is basically what we're saying, it's coming. And the Dreambox, like he said, that was a project that was started to be looked at the elementary school, and with the bond passing, these things are going to be coming for every student. So we're moving in that direction. It's coming very quickly. Your point is very well taken, and it is a point that everyone at this
I don't know how much further behind he can fall before all this technology finally gets to him. I mean, I'm doing more at home with the iPad than he gets from school, and I send him to school more than he's at home.
Right.
And I'm paying tax money to get these things, and why are they not in his hand? Why does he have to get them through a grant from somewhere outside the district? And then he has to share it. That's not right. It feels like he's being left behind because he's special ed. I mean, that's all in, K through 4, did you say? I don't understand why the special ed kids are left behind. Like they're the second-class citizens, that they get everything last. It's not fair. I pay taxes just like all the other parents do.
Well, and as we said, with the bond passing, our hope is, and our goal is that is all going to change, those funds are coming.
Hope. It has to be action.
And that's why I corrected myself when I said hope.
I'm tired of hope.
Yeah,
It's got to be more than hope.
And I'm tired of it too, and that's why we had the bond, and that's why we got the bond to pass. So stick with us, because great things are coming. The bond has passed, and if you come to our meetings every month, we're talking about the stuff that's happening with the bond and all the things that are getting implemented and all the technology that's coming, and all you have to do, contact the special ed director, our curriculum director, Mr. Berkmeyer back there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, he's a fountain of information on what's coming to us. It's coming, it's out there. Go to the website, and there's information coming. This next school year is going to be very, very exciting for not only your son, but for all the students. Trust us. It will be.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing.
Anyone else? Okay. Agenda items for our next meeting. Our second reading of our Neola policy. Anything else in May?
We'll have our handbook, student handbook, typical May activities.
Okay.
The bus purchases that we'll be talking about tomorrow night.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we'll have a bid on one of the items we didn't get a bid on in the flooring, or if that will wait for June. There's no real rush on that.
Okay. Okay, then next, I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session regarding negotiations.
So move.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are in closed session. It is 9:10. Take about 5 minutes, and Mrs. Michon, if we can get into your conference room, thank you.